but I'm going to go on. We're going to go on here. Coming up in the show, on his 36th birthday, we're going to ask how long LeBron can continue to be at or near his prime. You'll want to hear Perk's response on this one. First, though, it's just one game. We're hearing that a lot around the NBA right now as teams struggle to find their footing after the shortest offseason in history. Hey, so we lost by 20, won by 40, whatever. It's just one game. Which is true, except one game doesn't mean what it used to. In this shortened season, every outing is one of 72, not one of 82, which is why when, say, Ja Morant is projected to be out 3 to 5 weeks with an ankle injury, it's all that much more devastating for a team like Memphis. It's also why, in Philadelphia, even just this second week of the season, it feels like there's an invisible James Harden-shaped ticking clock over the Sixers' heads. Will Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers be better than their predecessors at putting Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons in position to flourish together? Or at some point, some number of games in, will it be time to push the button on a train for a certain bearded gentleman from Houston? The Sixers did seem to do the right things this offseason, making moves to create more spacing for their two stars, and they said the right things in training camp. Ben Simmons told reporters that former teammate Josh Richardson, quote, was definitely right when Richardson said there wasn't enough accountability in Philadelphia last year, and that since Doc arrived in town, Simmons said, quote, it's been great to see that and see guys be accountable for certain things and come here ready with a different mindset, unquote. Of course, those are all nice words, but now that the season has officially started, the games are what count. And last night against the Raptors, things did not start out well for the Sixers. Philadelphia trailed for most of the first half, shooting 29% from the field, just 22% from three. Meanwhile, on the other end of the floor, Toronto was getting so many good looks from three, you wondered if the Sixers arena staff had accidentally left a bunch of welcome mats out beyond the arc. There was also Kyle Lowry back in his hometown doing Kyle Lowry things. Yet slowly, as the game ground on, Philadelphia pushed its way through. Tobias Harris and Seth Curry both found their shots, combining for 18 points in the third quarter alone. Embiid persisted through an injury scare to finish with 29 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, with a 14 of 16 performance at the line to boot. And the Sixers defense buckled down hard, holding Toronto scoreless for nearly 4 minutes in the final frame to turn the game for good. Now, this wasn't officially the game winner, but it felt like it. A nice Curry three on a pass from Embiid, where Curry was so wide open thanks to a triple team on Joel. The Sixers' updated roster construction working exactly like it's supposed to there. So what does it all mean? Should we be thinking this is finally the year that Embiid has a legit place in the MVP discussion? Should we be worried about Simmons still being predictable in the half court? Or should we be noting his defensive versatility as a marker of the Sixers being able to eke out more gritty wins like this one? Or should we not draw any conclusions at all? Sure, it was only just one game. But in this city, in this season, that means more than it ever has. So, Perk, seeing as how that was just one game last night, they're just a few games in, are you buying the Sixers roster tweak so far?
I am buying it. The thing that the Sixers were missing was spacers and guys that could shoot the lights out of the ball. You look at a guy like Danny Green. You look at a guy like Seth Curry, who I think just get props for shooting the ball, but Rachel, he's a hell of a basketball player. He's an underrated defender. He's an underrated playmaker. And then when you look at the structure of their team, just think about this. Tobias Harris was having one of the best seasons of his career with the Clippers under Doc Rivers. And Joel Embiid, I love what Doc Rivers is going to do for Joel, and what he's doing for Joel is he's holding them accountable, not on the offensive end, but on the defensive end. And it's a ripple effect. So when you can hold Joel accountable, not Ben Simmons is saying, you know what, I could play for Doc. I could go out here and lay it all out on the line. I love the way this team is structured. I think they're moving in a great direction. And last year at this time, if they were down at halftime like they were to the Raptors, I don't know if we would have seen this same fight. But since Doc Rivers is there, one thing I know about Doc, his halftime speeches are going to be on point, and he's also going to get guys to rally back and play together, and that's what we saw yesterday from the 76ers.
You know, from the start, when Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers got together there, they made it very clear that this was going to be a Joel Embiid-focused team. Everything that they've said and done has pointed to that. They haven't gone away from Ben Simmons, but they have really played to Joel. And those roster tweaks that you mentioned, Rachel, were about Joel. And if you watched this game last night, they ran their offense through the end of the game through Joel Embiid with high pick and rolls. In their opener, where they had a 10-point comeback victory over Washington in the fourth quarter, they ran that whole fourth quarter offense through Embiid in the post. And, that is really what this is about. This is about giving Joel Embiid what he wants, which is the ball in his hands and control to be the kind of MVP candidate that he thinks he can be. The other thing is, Doc Rivers is putting no pressure on Ben Simmons on three-pointers. He has not taken a three-pointer yet. Last year, remember Brett Brown publicly announcing,
yes,
Ben, we want you to shoot a three every game. Doc has not done that at all, and the roster changes allow him to take that pressure off of Ben, and this approach so far has him 3-1, and then the loss was when Embiid sat.
Do you feel like there is a point where they can see enough before the trade deadline that this is the group they're going to stick with? I should rephrase that, by the way, because Daryl Morey never sticks with exactly the same group, but stars-wise. Or do you think that there's a point where they're going to look more seriously at that James Harden trade that we know has been discussed?
So the Sixers have the player that the Rockets, I think, can, that's probably the best deal that they can make right now, which is Ben Simmons. It's just a matter of constructing it in a way that satisfies both teams. If they really drilled down, they could probably get a deal done within a day or two. But neither one really are interested in doing that right now. And what the real question to me is there another team out there? Because we have a bunch of teams sort of packed together in the middle that tries to jump up and make an offer for Harden before Philadelphia comes to a final analysis in its mind. And right now, at 3-1, and Embiid and Simmons playing like this, I would say they're farther away from a Harden trade than they were 2 weeks ago.
Perk, what do you think? If you were Daryl, would you be looking to make that deal, or would you stand put with what you got?
I would stay put right now, Rachel. I would watch at least the first part of the season up until the trade deadline to see where the team is at. So I would keep an eye and I would monitor the situation. One thing about it is that you could never go wrong with trading for a guy like James Harden, an MVP guy that's right now that's like 10 to 12 pounds overweight and still averaging about 35 points a night. So, but with that being said, I wouldn't mess up the chemistry. Right now, I'm looking at this, watching this Philadelphia 76er team, and the chemistry is there. Mm-hmm. You have great leadership in this locker room between Danny Green and Dwight Howard. Both guys that have won the championship and knows what it takes. So right now, the chemistry is there. Guys look like they love playing with one another. And most importantly, they know their roles. They know their roles. So I wouldn't mess with it, not right now.
All right, well, let's move on to another team built around its big man. Last night on national television, the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Miami Heat by 47 points. Now, to be fair, Jimmy Butler did not play for the defending Eastern Conference champs. Milwaukee did set a single-game record, though, with 29 made threes. In fact, every active Bucks player except Giannis Antetokounmpo made at least one three in this game. Now, the Heat face the Bucks again today. Their Twitter account showed a little humor, posting this graphic this morning with the caption, "Taking on the Bucks tonight for the first time this season." Brian, it's like it never happened, right? And I did see this morning that Jimmy Butler not expected to play in this game either, Brian. So do you feel like you learned anything from yesterday or even from tonight's game without Jimmy, or not? It's just another night.
Rachel, we finally found something that the pandemic cured. It had cured the Miami flu. I've never seen a team come out in Miami and shoot like this. If you take away Giannis, the starters shot 18 of 25 on threes. Now, I will submit that is arguably one of the greatest shooting performances in the history of the NBA, not just on volume, but on percentage. So this is probably the best shooting performance we will see throughout the entire year. So I'm not going to focus on the spread of 47 points or the Heat. But what I will point out is this Bucks team is heavily reliant on production from its starting lineup. We have seen that in just these first few games. When the starters play well, they are awesome. Their bench remains suspect. And so what I take away from this is a reinforcing of, boy, the Bucks starters are really, really good. But what happens when they need some of their bench? That's what we're going to watch as the season goes along. Well,
I agree with you, Brian. But here's the key factor of this. Chris Middleton Chris Middleton has been playing some outstanding basketball, and last night he was on fire. But I'm going to go back to this. We're seeing all these blowouts. This is why the NBA, this is why the players need fans. This is why fans are so important. They help